Hi, Devonee.
Hi.
And hi, everybody. Welcome back to the LittleWins podcast, season 2. Let's talk about it. We're doing something a little different today and shaking it up in honor of World CP Day, World Cerebral Palsy Day. And that's something that is so close to my heart. I just felt my chest go like, woof. And I think it was you, Dev, right? That had the idea it would be interesting to switch it up and interview me instead of the other way around.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll never take that away from you. No one will ever take that away from you. And you know what? I'm game. I had never been a podcast host before, and that was terrifying, still is. And I've never been interviewed. So if anyone's going to do it, I love that it's you and someone who is on my team, on Team LittleWins, and we work together on so many different things, and you tolerate me all the time, and someone who's met my children and knows my family dynamic. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Devonee.
Yay.
Well, new host of the podcast. Hit it.
I'm really excited for this conversation today because I'm excited for people to learn a little bit more about you and your journey and this beautiful brainchild that is the LittleWins that's like happening, and we're shaking things up, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. But it all started from somewhere, and that's what I really want to start with today, is for you to take us back a little bit of when the girls were born, when you first had the twins, and when life kind of really changed for you.
Okay, so right after I had them.
Yeah.
From where? From their delivery, or from just like anywhere?
From delivery.
Okay. The twins were full term for twins, 37 weeks. And I had an awesome pregnancy. Truly, I was super shocked to find out I was pregnant with twins, as I think anyone would be, unless, you were gunning for that. I never thought I would have kids my whole life growing up. I just left it to the universe. Like, I knew I needed to be all these things before I could be that for anybody else. Yeah. And I was so excited to be pregnant. But then when there were 2 heartbeats, I was like, oh boy. Oh man, I hope I can pull this off. It's a deeply humbling feeling. And I worked out, I ate right, I took the vitamins, I did all the things, and I felt great. I really, when I look back on the time of being pregnant with them, even though my stomach was like here, I could barely tie my shoes for a very long time. What a magical, really fascinating time in my life. I learned so much about myself, and I could feel them. I learned so much about them. And when I went to deliver the girls, I was induced because Stella had kind of run out of room in my stomach. And I felt like that was kind of rude when they said that. I was like, what do you mean? I've like expanded beyond. And they were full term. So my doctors advised an induction to induce labor. And I had my bag packed. I was ready. I labored for, I'm summarizing, so there's like a lot of details. Stop me if it doesn't make sense. The Pitocin that they had administered to me to get labor in motion had started to make me really violently sick, and also, more importantly, was dropping Stella, twin B, and dropping her heart rate to dangerous levels overnight. It was over, like, I can't even remember, 19, 20 something hours. And we decided to pivot and have a C-section. Well, I hadn't had any drugs, and epidural, it had worn out, and it became a crash C-section where I had to be put under. So going into that moment, I had this beautiful pregnancy experience, and I really felt like everything I could control, I did all that. And I felt really good about that. And then all of a sudden I didn't have any more control of the situation. I never said, and this is something people should note too, I never said I must have a natural delivery of twins. Hey guys, I don't need to be some kind of epic hero, and there's no award for that, by the way.
Right.
I just want them out safely. What I didn't fight for was off the bat, what if a C-section of twins is safer, because statistically it is. And I thought back then, and my viewpoint has changed dramatically for so many reasons, that I could just put all of my trust into my doctor's hands and they would know what was right to do. I relinquished my own ownership of the situation in doing that. Right. So I don't do that anymore. But in that, continuing my brief summary, Ava suffered a skull fracture, what they called a mystery skull fracture, and a significant brain bleed in effort to get Stella out. And as a result, wasn't breathing for 11 minutes. And she ultimately has cerebral palsy. And I think it just takes the wind out of my chest, not the CP part. It's like waking up in that post-delivery room and not knowing where my babies were, not having the moment to hold them, like, that skin to skin, or when you have this pregnancy and you do all the things and then not have that, and being able to draw from other life experiences and say, okay, I didn't have the perfect birthing experience, but that's fine. The part that's not fine is like, where are my babies?
Right.
Where are they and what happened? And I still don't fully know exactly what happened to Ava, but I did have an awesome, they're both here, and that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. But I had an awesome nurse who had been tenured at the hospital, and she said to me, and it was brutal. She wasn't like coddling me. Okay. She just looked at me and said, listen, if that baby makes it through the night, she's going to live. It wasn't like, this is going to be fine. She's going to be fine. It was the truth. And God, I love the truth.
Ooh, yeah.
And so I just said, I'm on board with that. And she obviously did. Not only did she, but she surpassed every expectation that they had for her in the PICU and in the NICU, and continues to do so to this very day.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about, so you bring the babes home, family. And now, not only do you have I'm not a mother, but I could imagine just bringing home a child, period, and integrating them into your environment. But this level would be something different, of the first, few, talk to us about a little bit more of the first, few months, and really up to the first maybe year or two of maybe what you thought, 6 months was going to look like, and maybe what it looked like that was a little bit different in that journey.
Wow. Okay. That's, so it was actually really, I want to touch on all of those because they're all really important. It was really interesting, and I'm grateful for the experience of the fact that when Stella was ready to leave the NICU, she had a low birth weight. She needed to just make sure she could eat and breathe, and her heart rate was awesome, and she crushed it. Even though she was so tiny, I'm doing a hand motion that looks like a loaf of banana bread. She was I'm miming banana bread. She was so tiny and so magical. Gosh, anyone who's had a child, you're just like, wow, I grew that in my body. Amazing. I had the experience of bringing her home first, which I sometimes have to do the same thing multiple times throughout my daily life where I can really see each one of my children for what they have accomplished and what they're doing, and not just the whole big picture and then later flip it to that. I was so proud of her and so just astonished by the whole situation. But then they put this tiny little bread loaf in the car seat that you've had checked by all the things, and they're like, bye.
You're like, are you sure though?
Exactly. And I know there's not a single mother out there that doesn't resonate with that. You're like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That drive from the hospital to your house, it's just so, it's like an out of body experience. You're like,
yeah.
I'm just going to take this person home. And I look like someone who can do this. It is a really interesting moment and super important, I think, for the whole journey. But I had to leave Ava for a whole nother week. And so that was, it makes my stomach turn thinking about it, especially since their heart rates and their body temperatures were stronger when we put them together. Not uncommon for twins.
Right.
Going back even further than that, just so you know, having a C-section, I only had, I don't know, a few days, 3 or 4 days approved by insurance to stay in the hospital where I could walk to see them anytime I wanted to and spend the whole day there and nurse and pump and do all of that stuff, like real time right there. I did get another day, but then after that, when they were in the Ava in the PICU and Stella in the NICU, I had to go home at night to the nursery that I decorated for them and all the things that were laid out and all of that. And I haven't thought about that in a while. That part was really hard. But at the same time, once I just think back to that nurse, and I wish I could remember her name. Something just really clicked with me that reminded me of, like I said, so many other instances in my life where things like they didn't go exactly how you planned. And maybe it ended up in like total catastrophe. And it brings you back to ground zero of what is actually important.
Right.
You not whatever cookie cutter or vision you had for what it would be like to bring twins home, or what your neighbor did when they brought their twins home and what that looked like, whatever. It all comes down to like, they are here. No, I don't have them home today, but this is my normal. And so we have this awesome opportunity to just pave our own way. And we don't have to think about, what anybody else did in this moment and what those pictures look like and feeling like we need to keep up or all that stuff that, Dev, me, doesn't really suit me anyways. Never really fit quite right. But it definitely completely smashes that to smithereens. You don't have to think that at all.
Yeah.
So I think that moment, having her in the car, was both sides of my capacity for gratitude, but also pain.
Yeah.
In that very moment, simultaneously, look at this baby girl. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to probably stay up all night staring at her because God, I'm terrified. It's going to be like checking her breathing every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then having to leave Ava there by herself with the beeping and the cords and the monitors and all of that. What was helpful is I made really good friends with the nurses and the team at the hospital. So I knew them well enough to at least be able to take one baby home and cross my fingers
Right.
and say a little prayer. Like, she's going to be fine with these people I know are wonderful angels. And they really were. Okay. So other questions within that were in the first 6 months. I feel like I covered that I didn't have the same expectations of myself as a mother that I would overhear in classes or in the grocery store or anything. Where is your baby, sitting up yet? Have they smiled yet? Have they, oh, well, mine is, or whatever. And I honestly don't think that women, especially new moms, mean to do that. I think it's a pressure we feel on ourselves because of just society. Just we don't even need to go down that wormhole, but if that makes sense to you. It's like pictures. Our life is in pictures. So you see these things and then you look at your kid and you're like, well, crap, they're not sitting up by whatever age.
Right.
And you feel this enormous pressure. There were snippets of things that I learned throughout my life's timeline, is that everybody gets to where they need to be on their timeline. And I brought that into play for that moment, knowing that I have the freedom to think, it doesn't even matter if we hit milestones, folks. Right. We ain't on the same train.
Right.
We're like in a totally different plane. And there was so much freedom in that.
Yep.
And so much bliss.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time. I had a part-time nanny at that time. She came Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was just me and the girls. And I would talk to them all day long.
Right.
About like talking to you, like a friend. We'd sing, we'd chill, we watched this like terrible baby show on Baby Network that always confused me. But I look back on those memories so fondly, even though at any given moment, Dev, I was terrified, underlying constant subdermal level of terrified, that I didn't know how to be not just a mother, a new mom, but one who could be the best for Stella and her abilities, and the best for Ava and her abilities. And they had told me in the hospital she might have some seizure-like activity and that it would be a subtle lip smacking. Well, I don't know, guys. Has anyone ever breastfed a baby? They tell you that they're hungry by lip smacking. So I was like freaking out all the time until I really had to dig deep and know and have faith in her and myself and just animal instincts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, that I would know if it was a major issue.
Right.
And otherwise just have fun.
Yeah. And I bet you mentioned the freedom of, doing your best to remove stereotypes or like the shoulds, and you should be this as a mom at this point, or even that your kids should be this place at this point. And I could imagine really having to do that when you have these two beautiful humans that are very different and need different things from you, and for your own sanity to just like remove all of that crap and just like live in gratitude that they're alive, so like who cares on some of these other things.
That's why when she did make it through that night, I was just like, oh, it's on now, girl.
Yeah,
it's on now, girl. I often would hear in the beginning other parents say, and I don't ever fault, well, that's not true. I fault parents who do terrible things, but like a parent who has the best of intentions for their children for saying things like this. Well, isn't it hard to have a child with a disability? Or isn't it, don't you feel like it's unfair? What happened? I would get all kinds of comments, still do. Yeah. And I don't really. It was the freedom. I never do. And I think you know me well enough to know I would tell you in just that moment of being like, well, hell yeah, she made it through the night. So it's on. We're off of that whole timeline, or the, whatever that popular, we're on the bell curve where most people fall into, and bless them and bless us and everybody else for being in our own. There is no right or wrong. All we can ever do is try our very best and learn. I think a lot of parents think that it's our job specifically to teach our children what we know. I've learned more from my kids, from the feelings I had in those early moments, all throughout those 6 months and beyond. I've learned more about myself, the world, and these children than I fear I've taught them.
Right.
Outside of like the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, honey. I feel I'm just at a place where now I just keep them alive. We do the meals and the nut-free lunches and the carpooling, but I'm learning from them.
Right.
And from the experience of being their mom.
Right. Well, and fast forward, now we've added 2 other amazing humans, little humans.
Yeah. Sure did.
Yeah. And when at what point, I guess I'm like trying to do the math in my head, like kind of knowing all of their ages. So maybe around like, Stella and Ava are maybe 4 or so, and then Jonas and Billy are here, and just like talking about now being a mother of 4 it in its own right. It's a lot.
It was a lot. It is a lot. When people look at me with these eyeballs, because they're all 7 and under right now.
Yeah.
There was a moment where I bought a really cool gadget I tried to find for someone else on Amazon the other day, and I couldn't find it. So if anybody listening knows where to find this, it's a stroller, but it's 3, like a little train. I had 3 and under, and had like a bus, like a literal stroller bus. And I just throw them all in there, and we'd go to lunch or go to music class down the street when I lived in Wicker Park. That was rad. I loved that. You just go. Jonas was a surprise, major surprise. The twins were 8 months old when I found out I was pregnant with Jonas. And I cried, like I think most people would, but I just knew that it was meant to be. And that I would be given what I can handle.
Right.
Even though some days you're like, I can't handle this.
Yeah.
It's so cool when you sit down and you realize, but I just did.
Yeah. Right.
But I just did. And now it's a party, now we have a party all the time. But it's a lot for sure. She's like, yeah, I've been to your house, girl. It's like, did you brush your teeth? Did you brush your teeth? Did you brush your teeth?
Right.
Getting them to school by 8:37 a.m. is like herding cats in 2 different places.
Yeah.
And I laugh about it because it's really, I wouldn't trade it. It's so hard.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned like this is the path that you should be on, so like why question it? It's like, all right, this is my party. Let's do it.
This is my party. The only thing I ever question, like I think anyone would in parenting or in things where we feel so humbled by the opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. That maybe we're not equipped to be the right person when you love them so much, and that you're trying so hard, and then there are those moments where you're like, did I handle that okay? Did I, was I a good parent to each one of my children today? And the amount of pressure we put on ourselves inherently, no matter what, a child with a disability or otherwise, all my children are completely different. And that's been a huge blessing too. Each one of them requires a different format of even explaining the one same thing.
Right.
For them to understand. And you just got to stay agile and keep trying. Every time I have those moments where I'm like, oh God, am I doing this okay? I always fall back to the simplicity in a statement. Like, if she makes it through tonight, she's going to live. The simplicity in the statement of, I know I tried all day today.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah.
And in that, I find a lot of comfort and a lot of faith. And then sometimes I just laugh and go to bed.
Yeah. You're like, well,
left it all on the field, folks.
we did what we could.
Yeah, I forgot a violin. I put snacks in 3 people's backpack, but not one. This was yesterday, by the way. Left someone's lunch in the back of my car. And then I was like, oh my word, I literally made it to school on time for the first time today. I felt like I was on fire until someone said they didn't have their violin and only 3 people had snacks. And I was like, crap.
Well, here's to the rest of the day.
I tried, guys. Yeah.
I showed up. I tried. Yeah. So, okay. So now we have LittleWins. It's been some years and, we're all here doing like amazing work, but I'm curious of what, and I'm sure it was a combination of moments, but tell us like a few times when you were like, this can't be it. Like, we got to do more. Like, my children in general need more access and more to survive. Like, this can't be it. So like, take us a little bit to where LittleWins was kind of birthed out of.
Yeah, my 5th child for sure.
Yeah.
Every time I think about it, I smile because even I'm so surprised. Like, I don't know how it happened, but I established the company 3 years ago in December. And when you asked me the question about the first 6 months of having the twins at home, I'm really glad that I didn't unpack all of that right there, because it's most appropriate right here.
Sure.
Not that we planned any of this, folks. I just, they give you, they being doctors and social workers, whoever, this was my experience. Maybe it's not everyone's, but this was mine. Your child had suffered a brain trauma at birth, will likely be, have a brain damage for the rest of her life. I have a hard time saying it still.
Yeah.
Will likely be brain damaged for the rest of her life. And they give you a folder with some numbers and some newsletters with a lot of words that you can't read in the moment. You can't even hear because there's like a ringing in your ears and the walls are breathing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those moments where you're like, yep. I'm going to look at this folder just as soon as I can. As soon as the walls stop breathing.
Right.
I did the things. I called everyone and made her appointments, her follow-up appointments, neurologist and all the things. And there was a lot of power in that and in that structure of knowing that I was on a path that would be helpful for her. But what I was feeling in that moment is that there wasn't a lot of support and almost no direction. And all I wanted to do was care for both my babies to the best of my ability and for their individual needs.
Yeah.
I tried to Google. This was almost 8 years ago. There wasn't a lot of information, the things you Google. Golly. Brain trauma, all these things. And then you just decide to close your computer and let your brain rest. I had her enrolled in therapy, in physical therapy and all of that through a state-run program. And there was comfort in that at the time. Whenever I had this person come to my house, I was more ready to learn. How do I care for this child? What does she need? Teach me how to do it, because they didn't do that in a hospital. Nobody does. The doctor's office, the pediatrician, they don't have time even to walk you through it. They just give you the same numbers or helplines or websites. That's terrifying in itself. I had this company come. Each week it was a different person. So I spent 30 minutes explaining what my knowledge of the birthing event was to them. And the next 30 minutes, they would kind of do an assessment. I realized quickly that we weren't going to get anywhere. I was super frustrated, but in that moment, I just was like, we need to pivot. How many dollars for a regular physical therapist, and where do I find them? Like, how do I get to them? And through all of that, it was my sister-in-law at the time who was a therapist in San Francisco, and she had a friend and knew of someone who we could reach out to here. That was all I needed. And to speak with her and bring Ava to her, she put me in touch with Diane Ryan, who's our OT here, been our OT forever and also on the show. And through her knowledge and vast experience, was able to build a private team for Ava that we would be on a great track for regularly scheduled therapy and growth there. Because when what track I was on at the time was like Groundhog's Day. I was every single time did the same thing with no real change or growth. And that wasn't going to work for me. Growing up in the way that I did, and just from my personal life experience, I know what it feels like to just be trying as hard as you possibly can and working your tail off to pay your bills and take care of your family and buy groceries and maybe someday have like a little bit of fun. Applying that knowledge to the scenario that I was in there and knowing that I was not alone. Started to be something I couldn't stop thinking about. And every single time I needed to get her even just like a splint for her thumb or a brace for her leg, or I'm not even talking about the large equipment. It was all the same. It was all a struggle through our insurance company. And then I started thinking, because I grew up without health insurance, I started thinking, well, what does this scenario look like for everybody without health insurance? It's already hard for me. And I'm paying for this service. So like, what is that like for everybody else? And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Never in my life have I ever felt more, I call it possessed, but it was almost like taken over, taken over by the desperate need to figure out a problem or find any solution for a problem that is so much bigger than me. And also going to bed at night being like, who do I think I am? I have like no college degree. I can barely do math. I don't even know how to work my iPhone at the time. I have a million kids under the age of 5 seconds. And I'm like, who do I think I am? But it didn't matter. The more people, every time I would have that total mental crisis, what we just discussed, what we just unpacked right there, I would have this renewed strength, almost stronger than the day before, every time I met another family or another person who was feeling the same way, but felt like the situation was hopeless. But they never had a hopeless vibe. They were like, okay, the system completely sucks. We're going to do the best we can in the moment. It's not going to break our spirits. I never met any one person who said, what about us? I swear on my soul. What about me? And this isn't fair. They were just like, all right, cool. We're going to keep on cruising and we're going to go to the things we can go to. And when we can't get the equipment or the mode of transportation, we're going to get creative. But it won't stop us. And that fueled me. Like that was like when you have a little ember of just like a little tiny flame. And that was just like gasoline. And I was like, these people aren't asking for help, folks. They aren't doing anything but living their lives and doing it in such a beautiful way that, I mean, whatever. So what if I try and I completely fall on my face? At least I can sleep at night knowing that I tried, as opposed to all the nights previously where I had all this self-doubt and it consumed me. And I was like, woe is me. How will I be able to do anything? Whatever. And maybe it still will fail. Maybe it won't. We don't know. It hasn't yet.
No way.
And the thing is, the faith that I have in this community, none of it was about success for a company. It was about creating a solution to a problem.
Right.
That is so archaic. And frankly, we're bored.
Bored.
We're bored.
Yeah.
It's like, can we all just move on and let's do some cool things and figure it out and work together. I feel like I blacked out a little bit between like right before I started LittleWins and the first year I mean that like air quotes, like I just was so obsessed with figuring it out.
Right. I
was so in it, the same way I blacked out when I had 4 children that are now 7 and under. you tunnel vision it, and all you can see is the steps that you need to take, and there's nothing else.
Right.
With your children, with your startup.
Right.
It's probably a level of insanity.
I mean, or drive, or
it's definitely a combo meal, but there's some insanity in there somewhere. But
a little sprinkle.
All of those sprinkled with insanity and the fairy dust. Whatever. The things that have terrified me most always, like being interviewed on this podcast, is a small sample of that.
Yeah.
Being in these meetings the first year of getting this company started and saying, look, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
I've been attending some night school classes on coding and also learning how to work my iPhone. So many things, advertising and things that I never did because I couldn't go to college. I couldn't afford to go to college. I didn't have this whole other life experience that so many other people had, but my life experience was different in common sense and in getting to know others and myself.
Yeah.
And having some faith in that. So I would go into these meetings and be like, look, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm going to let you ask me questions. Any word I don't understand, I'm going to write it down.
Right. Google it.
Like at first, I started at words, Devonee. Yeah. Okay. Right. Like, I don't know what traction means. And I'm not sure what SEO is. Is that like an acronym or is that the word? Right.
It's all about that YouTube University. It's my favorite.
Yeah. I'm just gonna write it down, and then the questions, I'll write those down. But I'm a decisive person. I trust my gut. I did this very long discovery with all these amazing families who would give me any information about their journey to acquiring care and equipment. And I was armed with their faith and my passion and my drive to create a better world, really, for not just Ava, for all of my kids. And so I don't care about a dumb question. I'll be here, folks, writing them down. I'll Google it and I'll be back tomorrow with all of my answers. Whatever.
Yeah. We got things to do.
We got things to do, folks.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit. So if people are kind of hearing this for the first time, tell us just a little bit more about LittleWins, what they can do there, and all the access that they have there.
So LittleWins is a platform, a marketplace to facilitate the trade or to buy or sell used medical equipment and also supplies. It is up to you. It was like a bridge that I built for the people. When you can't find what you need, when insurance denies you, when when you can't go to Walgreens one more time to buy something that breaks your heart.
Yeah.
You know, and when you feel alone in the process of doing it, because no one around you, like where I live, like nobody around me has a child in a wheelchair or embraces, and I'm completely oblivious to that. But I am also acutely aware that not everyone is oblivious to that feeling. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. I learned that from that discovery period of having the conversations with all of these amazing families on just exactly what their pain points were. And I found that no matter what the symptoms or diagnosis, even if they didn't have a diagnosis, or socioeconomical breakdown or anything, the two common pain points were that everybody had something that they no longer needed.
Right.
Needed something. So that's a slash. Mm-hmm. Needed. And they felt alone and isolated. Yeah. And I remember going back to that question about what was it like taking her home from the hospital, where I'm Googling my face off, trying to figure out, how do I care for this child?
Right.
That is a huge part of why I had to start this company, even if equipment was never traded. Mm-hmm. If none of that component of it worked, so that you're not alone, let it be a resource for you, for anybody coming up after me who needs a friend and a connection or a place to ask questions, because we're really learning from each other. What a powerful tool to say, hey guys, I just the other day in our forum, I said, Ava, I didn't know that they weren't giving her an adaptive spoon at lunch. Well, I was volunteering for Lunch Lady that day, and she doesn't want to eat her soup, even though it's delicious.
Yeah.
When I looked at her, I knew why. They give her a plastic spoon, and first of all, I can't eat. I can barely use a plastic spoon. Like it is not. It's not structurally sound. Okay, it's not reliable for soup, especially. But I get it. And I wanted to see what other people had used in lunch boxes and otherwise, to be able to just ask that question in forums, or the connection you get from if I post a picture of a walker and you need it,
right,
then you and I have so much in common. And on LittleWins, you have that chat component that we now made available to keep open for you. Ask those questions. If someone before you who has a child older than yours has, or an adult, anyone, you have so much in common, and to be able to dispel that loneliness, but also learn from each other so much faster. It's the most powerful tool there is, that connection. I truly believe.
Yeah. So what's coming up with LittleWins? Is there anything that you want to share? Some cool, I know.
I'm like, Devonee, don't be so coy. Don't tease me, Devonee.
I know some awesome things that we have coming, but
also know we can't tell them everything.
There's really, really great stuff coming. That's a little hush hush for now, but you just mentioned, just some features that we're expanding on. So keeping that chat open so people are able to connect a little bit longer, and things like that.
That was a huge thing. Well, we're a custom build website. When I started LittleWins, it would have been awesome if there was another LittleWins. So I could have just taken what was happening and made it, work in other ways, or partnered with them, and we could work together, and I wouldn't have to pave the way myself. Every update that we've made to this website was truly driven by not my vision.
Right.
That was a hard one in the first year. I had all these places I wanted to take it, and then being like, oh, okay, well, this isn't about me, actually.
Oh, okay.
Driven by our community, and what we get in the feedback from the surveys or from any emails. One massive update last year, geolocation, something I always wanted to do. I just didn't know when I had V1 if anyone would use it at all,
right,
or if it would be helpful at all. And that's a
Yeah.
massive lift for a custom built website.
Mhm.
And so we waited on that, but boy, does it feel good when,
Yeah.
you can find equipment close to you and supplies. That was huge. Keeping the chat component open was another thing I always wanted to do. I just wanted to make sure that, one, my priorities are to always keep this community safe.
Yeah.
From tomfoolery and all these, like, that's Mr. Tomfoolery to you.
Yeah.
All these people that with ill intentions, you don't build a website on integrity and hope and love to just let, tomfoolery in and feel like they're not safe. I watch it like a hawk. And I was nervous to open up the chat component until I knew that we had all protection firewalls and all that stuff in place. And now we're ready to rock. You guys want to chat? Hit it. Share all your details, whatever you want. What did you use at this age? How did they walk like this? Or this is what I'm feeling today. Gosh, I wish I had that when I first had the girls. That's huge. Okay, so coming up, we have what can we share, Deb?
There's
you share it. I don't know. I feel like there's
trying to not spill the beans. There's some more custom options coming.
Yes.
More opportunities for community.
Community and ease in acquiring supplies and care. We're always trying to find like fun, exciting ways to make things accessible and your life easier and feel like a party and feel like somebody over here, me, LittleWins, Lex, and Devonee, we out here, folks. Let's just have a good time and dispel any of the rest of the baloney. It's such a joy. It's such an honor and a privilege to me. Yeah. It's the same humbling that I feel oftentimes. Yeah. It's the same one I had, bringing the babies home, where you're like, gosh, am I really equipped for this? Yeah. But then you go to bed knowing, I know I tried all day to the best of my ability, and I'll get up and I'll do it again tomorrow. And it's an honor and a privilege to do so. Yeah. And I'm so grateful. Definitely. Well, as we roll into World CP Day coming up, I felt like this was That's why I'm wearing green. That's what I'm wearing. I'm wearing green for it. That's great. I know. It's just amazing to see, all the things that you've done and accomplished, but more than that, like, not to, give you too many compliments, but more to that of just like listening to the need and like being a vessel for a weird word of like just saying yes to the call and being like, all right, we're going to figure this out. Like we're going to do this because this is not okay. And if you jabronis aren't going to figure out, we're going to figure it out. If you people up top or who's in charge or whatever, like if you're not going to do it or take it seriously, fine, we'll do it. And we have a giant community of amazing humans who have, maybe some of them have just been waiting for someone to take up the charge and they're ready to, so it's coming and it's happening, and what's being created is so beautiful. And man, the next couple of years are going to be rad. Super powered by the people. And I do think that, and I've said this before on the show in other contexts, it's such an exciting time in medicine. I think we can get caught up in, whatever else is going on, but within this realm, what an exciting time in medicine, and also an exciting time to be alive and just an individual with a purpose. Because when the larger corporations and these things that we don't really understand and feel like they don't see us, right?
Right.
When they're failing large populations. I don't want anyone to take any of the things I ever put in those statements as I'm calling anyone else out. What I'm calling is for the people who have a need and a drive to form any solution to a larger problem. The time is now.
Yeah.
Because everybody is ready for that and so excited, in like tech startups and med tech and everything that's going on in this whole community. Everyone wants to work together because everyone's starting to see, you bring this to the table, you have this strong suit, we're all working towards this common goal.
Right.
Let's join forces.
Yeah.
And let's make something absolutely beautiful. And I'm so happy to be a part of it. World CP Day gets me choked up every time. That's why every time you say it, I'm like, and not in a bad way, in like, truly the number one reason I started this company was holding Ava when she first got home. When I was able to first have that car experience with her that I had with Stella.
Yeah.
But even more terrified. And then holding her in that nursery that she hadn't been in yet, in the rocking chair. And my brain sometimes moves too quickly because I could have just enjoyed that moment. You know me, Def. All I could think was, oh God, I hope everybody sees you for exactly who you should be.
Yeah.
Like the nurse said, if she makes it through this night, and being terrified all of a sudden in that moment, like, what if they don't see her for that? I don't care about the milestones. Give me a break. I don't care about whether or not they eat their vegetables, although I would be nice and I try. But like, what if she isn't ever seen or accepted for just exactly who she is? Something that's really miraculous, just like her sister, but in a different way.
Right.
And that was the first seed of that little tiny flame that we mentioned, was over my dead body. Because I know how I grew up. I knew what people said about anyone with a disability, and I fought for them on the playground. I hate that stuff. I believe that people should be accepted as people until you're a bad person, and then I'll tell you what I think about that later. But enough, right? Can we all just see each other as people?
Right.
And I decided right then and there, every person I meet, anyone who will listen, I will get on my soapbox and I'm going to tell them I will change it. And that feeling just grew. I think people want to talk to each other and they want to connect with each other, but we've just been given all these like just garbage thoughts or outside. What am I trying to say? Like propaganda and nonsense, essentially, that now we're scared sometimes to talk to each other. We don't know what to say, so we don't say anything.
Yeah.
There's like different terms and sensitivities and all of this, where I felt like that in other situations where you're like, I don't want to offend you, so I'm just going to go ahead and be like, can I do like, what's cool?
Right.
Because I just want to love you. You know, like I just want, and I want to be respectful, and I want to, can we just be friends?
Right.
What do you need? My head's filled with a bunch of garbage from other generations. How do I shake that?
Yeah.
But we have to do that together. And I will not stop until I feel my daughter can go to college where she belongs. I'm not asking for her to go to a place where, you know, to Harvard just because she's in a chair or something like that. I'm saying I want her to get an equal opportunity for her capabilities.
Yeah.
For just exactly who she is and nothing else. The same as I would ask for any one of my other children. And she will have to work for it just the same as anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me. World CP Day is important to note. And I thought of this, I wish I would have queued it up. There is this thing I wanted to read to you. It's a poem that I found last year. So will you tell the people a joke while I find it again? Oh, wait, I found it. Wait, do you have a joke though?
Oh, that's the worst thing to give.
I hate when people ask.
I have one joke. This is the one joke that I have. What did the buffalo say to his child when he left for college?
The fact that you were able to just whip that out of like a back pocket blew my mind. Like,
my one joke.
I don't even need a punchline. Okay.
It's my one joke. Okay. So what did the buffalo say to his child when he left for college?
What?
Bison.
Okay, for the people who are going to watch it, for the people who can't see your adorable face when you do that with like your chin on your hand and like a little ta-ta gesture with your fingers.
It's my only joke.
Well, you crushed it, because I hate when people ask me that. My brain's like an Etch-a-Sketch. It's one of those questions where they're like, if I brought it up organically myself, I could tell you a joke, but don't ask me to tell a joke. So by the way,
you're welcome.
Well done, sis.
All right, what's the poem? Tell us.
Okay. Well, it's a little bit heavier. It's not a joke, but it's true, and it makes me smile in a different way than a bison. What cerebral palsy cannot do. It cannot cripple love. It cannot shatter hope. It cannot corrode faith, limit friendship, damage memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot control the soul. It cannot steal eternal life. And it cannot conquer the spirit. It cannot delay joy. And this poem has always been important to me because I felt that way, but obviously it's just so well written and so just straight to all the places where you need to take a breath and you need to feel like you're not alone. I wanted to put that in here in this podcast for anybody who might feel they are alone, and think about that. It's so true.
Yeah.
And when I read that, the very first thing I thought was, well, after all of that, I mean, that sounds like a hell of a lot of ability to me.
Right.
Hell of a lot of power to me. Okay. Yeah. You can't cripple faith and hope and love and laughter and all of that. There's no, it's a strength, and we're stronger together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you for doing this, Deb.
Did it.
Would you like to take would you like to take over all other interviews moving forward?
As long as I can come with a new joke each time, I'll practice.
Oh, that's
that are equally as silly.
It's a prerequisite, actually.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'll Google some.
Google. Awesome.
That's great.
Thanks.
We did it. We talked about it. Thank you for sharing your story and a little bit more about why we're here and how LittleWins came to be. And I'm really excited for this journey and all the awesomeness that's coming.
Oh, the places we'll go.
Yes.
Together.
Yeah.
Fueled by our people, truly.
Yeah.
Powered by the people, and together we'll do it. It's so exciting. All these updates and all the projections for next year and different ways of creating just access in doing it in a fun way, having some fun while doing it.
Heck yeah.
Let's party. I love it. Thank you for being on this team and for your love and your dedication, your understanding. and for the passion that you fuel into it as well. It does. We have such a tiny team and we all wear so many hats. And someday I think we're going to laugh about that, even though some days it feels a little crazy. It's still ultimately an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, definitely.
Go team.
Go team.
I love you. I'm doing heart hands.
Heart hands.
Heart hands. Heart hands. Most days go purple, but for CP day, go green.
Go green.
Yeah. Love you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
That's a wrap, folks. Thank you and good night. Love you. Bye.